I've always been fascinated by the whole concept of creation. And what does it take to create something that makes a difference to the world? What does it take to create something that creates an impact and that creates an outcome for people around us, for our teams, for our organizations, for our society? So the concept of creation really brings a lot of ingredients together. It requires ideas and imagination. It requires a conducive environment that provides that foundation for those ideas to flourish. It also requires deep knowledge and access to expertise to be able to take those ideas into execution. And my favorite, ideas are great, knowledge is great, but it also requires the ability to drive and to have that passion to see through all the challenges that the process of creation will take you through and being able to navigate through them and overcome them until finally your idea comes to existence. So when we were designing the conference, the next 3 days, it's not only a creative process for us, because we put this program together and we have 3 days to be able to bring together ideation, knowledge, and inspiration, but really is a creative process for you. So I would like to invite you to see the next 3 days as a creative journey. It's a time where you are detached from everything that you do on a day-to-day basis, and you have an opportunity to see things differently and to really think about new ideas, deepen that knowledge, and find that inspiration and drive to take you forward. So I'm going to take you through these 3 aspects, and I'm going to start with the first small little exercise. So everyone has 30 circles on your tables. If you're sitting, we have 5 tracks. So if you're sitting on the live feed tracks, you will still have that paper with you. If you're seeing us from office and you're seeing that from the Facebook Live, you don't have that paper, so you'll have to make one. So please take an empty white piece of paper and draw those 30 circles. If you are in the room and you don't have one, I again invite you to just draw one very quickly. Yeah. So what we're going to do with this is actually a very well-known exercise on design thinking. This was created by Bob McMillan from Stanford Design Program. And this is actually a tool that will help us think through innovation and imagination. So what I'm going to invite you to do is I'm going to give you 1 minute, and you need to adapt as many circles into recognizable objects as you can. So something like this, right? You know, you can draw a ball, you can draw a smiley, you can draw a bicycle, you can draw whatever you want, but you're going to have only 1 minute to do it. And I'm interested on the quantity of objects and not so much on what you're really drawing. Yeah? So are we clear? Yeah? So time starts now. Right? 40 more seconds. $20 seconds. Last 10 seconds. As many as you can. Go for it. All right, so time is up, so you can stop drawing, stop drawing, stop drawing, especially the ones at the back, stop drawing. Now, how many of you were able to fill at least 5 circles? Right? Okay, that's pretty cool. More than 10? Okay, actually, at least 10. 10, so the ones who did 5 should also keep your hand up, right? Right? Okay, more than 15, equal or more than 15? All right. 20? All right, okay. All? All right, okay, great. So this exercise gives us an opportunity to reflect about how much we edit when we ideate. So I was very clear when I asked you, requested you to say quantity matters, not quality, right? But in that process, and all of you have experienced that process of saying, but you know, it should either look beautiful, or it should be smart, or I should look good in front of someone else if I have to show it to somebody, right? So how many of you use any pattern, like smileys, for example, or balls, or vehicles, okay? How many of you used any of the examples I said? So I mentioned some examples. Did you use those examples, right? So I think it's an interesting thought as we start the conference to think how quantity is so important. In the ideation stage, in the imagination stage, quantity, when you brainstorm, quantity matters. So do not constrain yourself by editing at the stage of ideation. Ideation itself requires an environment which is conducive of playfulness. So hopefully during the conference you will have that experience, because not only we have 2 tracks which are the formal tracks, but we have created 3 more tracks which are experiential tracks. So you will have the central stage in the lobby, which is an open stage. You will have the unconference at the Pearl Room, which is a Q&A and a live chat stage where you'll get the opportunity to interact with many of our speakers. And you will also have the masterclass track. So use the imagination and leverage the environment that we've created in TechHR to be able to ideate. That takes me to the second point, which is about knowledge and deep knowledge. I think in my interactions with many CEOs and HR heads, normally when you reach a particular level of seniority, you kind of feel that I've reached my knowledge level. So when it comes to creation, there is no knowledge which is deep enough. And I have this beautiful example that I found of Einstein. He used to give the same exam paper to his students every semester. And one of his students came and said, but Professor Einstein, you're giving us the same exam. That makes no sense. And his answer was, the questions are the same, but today you know more than what you knew yesterday. So I expect that your answers will be different. And I think that's what really knowledge is all about. That mindset that when I'm attending a session, or when I'm interacting with somebody, when I'm talking to a product expert, don't go in the surface, because you may know a lot about it, but can you learn something else? And I think that's really the toolbox for imagination, because ideas to be executed need the deep knowledge and need access to expertise and access to people who can actually help you take those ideas to execution. That takes me to the third piece, which is drive. And I recently watched this movie. It's called The Martian. How many of you have seen The Martian? Yeah, it's an amazing movie. And here is Matt Damon, who is an astronaut. And I'm not going to tell too much about the story because you must watch this movie. But he's an astronaut. He's left behind in Mars. And nobody knows he's alive. And you can imagine what that means, right? So talk about the problems we face in the workplace, trying to find solutions to align our business. This, if you put it in perspective, being left alone in Mars 4 years away, for anybody to be able to rescue you is a big, big challenge. So I'm going to play a small video for you, for us to reflect about what drive is really all about.
Good news, I may have a solution to my heating problem. Bad news, it involves me digging up the radioisotope thermoelectric generator. Now, if I remember my training correctly, one of the lessons was titled, "Don't dig up the big box of plutonium, Mark." I get it, RTGs are good for spacecraft, but if they rupture around humans, no more humans. Which is why we buried it when we arrived. And planted that flag so we would never be stupid enough to accidentally go near it again. But, as long as I don't break it.
I almost just said everything will be fine out loud. Look, the point is, I'm not cold anymore. And sure, I could choose to think about the fact that I'm warm because I have a decaying radioactive isotope riding right behind me, but right now I got bigger problems on my hands. I have scoured every single data file on Commander Lewis's personal drive. This is officially the least disco song she owns.
So I think that's such a beautiful example about how, in the midst of the most complex and most life-threatening situation, how not only he's able to find a solution, but also how he's keeping the fun. He's alone. Nobody's watching him. He doesn't really need to pretend that he's having fun. But it's just that playfulness of problem solving, which really is what drive is all about. And I'm going to leave you with one thought. What if we were to look at ourselves as professionals not as a puzzle builders. Because when you're making a puzzle, how many of you have kids? Yeah? How many of you have made a puzzle and realized there is one piece missing? Right? Now we can't make the puzzle anymore. So the mindset of a puzzle maker means I must have all the parts. Right? I must have all the parts to build the puzzle. But what if I invite you to think about yourself as a quilt maker, which is really what Matt Damon is doing in Mars. With whatever I have, what best I can do. With whatever pieces I have, what most beautiful quilt I can make. So I invite you to take the opportunity to use the next 3 days to explore that concept of a quilt maker and really create those ideas and take them to execution as you go back to your workplace. Let's make every day count. Thank you very much.